to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network, presented by Whelen Engineering and also brought to you by Hercules Tire. I'm Hannah Newhouse, joined each and every week here by my co-host of Kyle Rickey. And over the past week, we've talked about a lot of international news in the world of NASCAR. We talked a little bit about the NASCAR Pinty Series finally getting the opportunity to announce their 2021 schedule, consisting of 11 total races and kicking off at August 1st at Sunset Speedway. And Kyle will have Cherie, Putnam, the series director, here on in just a little while to talk about that. But I'm so excited for those drivers and those teams to finally get some solidity and the opportunity to get back on the racetrack.
Yeah, and it's nice to hear Canada in general as a country, they're reopening on pace where we were just a couple of months ago. Sunset Speedway, I know, with their first race in August, able to welcome fans back for the first time this coming weekend. So the restrictions are being lifted. I think it's 25% capacity for now, and hopefully, we'll even have more of a capacity when the NASCAR Pinty Series gets there on August 1st. But a good next step, and like we've talked earlier, we've come so far here in the United States. They've come so far. 6 races a year ago, 3 days of doubleheader racing, no fans, and it wasn't really even considered a full championship a year ago for the NASCAR Pinty Series. So nice to see a fairly full schedule for them this year. Yeah,
a couple of double headers on those schedules, including the opening weekend, August 1st at Sunset Speedway. So we'll have Cherie Putnam on a little bit later to talk about that. But also the NASCAR Euro Series back in action. Their schedule always a little bit different, usually consisting of doubleheader weekends with large gaps between those. They're headed back to the UK of Brands Hatch this weekend for the American Speed Fest. And one of the cool press releases that ended up in my inbox over the weekend was Alex Sedgwick returning to the Euro Series. But he's running an NBA 2K Kobe Bryant scheme, tribute scheme for that. Really cool. If you get the chance, look it up. It's on the NASCAR Euro Series website. But there's a couple drivers, Kyle, that are doing a little bit of a cross-continental journey over the next couple days.
Yeah, first off, huge entry list for this weekend. Can't wait to watch them online here in the States. Loris Hasemans is championship point leader for the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series in the Pro Division, and he was just at the Pocono Raceway running in the NASCAR Xfinity Series for Mario Gosselin, finished 27th on Sunday, quickly on a plane, back to Brands Hatch for this weekend. So nice to see Loris in Pocono just a couple of days ago, but yeah, he's racking up those frequent flyer miles here this weekend and this week.
American Speed Fest is one of the cooler weekends that the NASCAR Euro Series does have on their circuit. Usually a lot of fans involved, a lot of cool schemes that come out, and I always look forward to seeing the pictures that arise on social media from that weekend. We're going to take a quick break, though, but when we return, we will have Cherie Putnam on to talk some NASCAR Pinty Series.
Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights. Whelen also produces white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on-site to meet the toughest industry certifications. Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, trusted to perform since 1952.
Wide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTires.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTires.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
We've talked a lot about the 2021 Pinty Series schedule, of course, finally released in the last couple weeks, and much anticipating their first race out. We're now joined by Series Director Cherie Putnam here on the guest line of Coast to Coast. First off, Cherie, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to join us here on Coast to Coast.
Appreciate you having me today.
We were really excited to see that schedule finally make its release, August 1st being the return in 2021 for the NASCAR Pinty Series. How excited are you to finally have the solidity, have a schedule placed out, and get ready to go racing?
We're really excited to start our year within less than a month now, or just over a month, really. And to be honest, we wish we were back starting in May, and we're glad to be just coming back to the track. So we're pretty excited. teams have been testing, and we're just looking forward to get back on the asphalt and get going.
Well, let's button up last year for a moment. 3 doubleheader race days, 6 total events, no fans. How challenging was it to come up with something, anything, just to get teams back on the racetrack to run, at least 3 race days and 6 events?
Yeah, as we all experienced the challenges over the last year, our team worked really hard to keep active in 2020, whatever it looked like. We had a lot of restrictions, but of course, with the support of our series sponsor at Pinty's Foods, General Tire, and our partnership with TSN, we were just able to get the races out there to our fans and let them cheer on, even if it's just by TV, their favorite drivers and teams.
And what did you guys take? We see here with NASCAR, stateside, some of the double headers, no practice, no qualifying that have been implemented into 2021. What was something that you guys took from 2020, that we're expecting to see maybe even this year, the communication that you had with the teams going into this year?
Well, we, as a group, they've been very understanding, and it's been more of a challenging with our government and what we're allowed to do at the safety of not just our competitors, our sponsors, but all the fans. We're using some of it, but we're going to go back to a little bit more of a traditional type year, not totally traditional as 2019, but somewhat of being back to getting a little bit of practice, going back to qualifying for those races and competing for like a full championship year.
Sunset about a month out now. Hard to believe we're already approaching July 4th weekend here. Keeping an eye on the restrictions, though. Some being lifted. Sunset Speedway, I know their weekly program has been running for a couple of weeks now. They're able to bring back fans now at 25%. As a country, as a whole, where are you guys at right now? And where do you hope to be in 4 weeks' time?
Well, it's changing every day, which is great. So with the more vaccines available into Canada and the age availability dropped to 18 years and older for all Canadians, Canadians have been doing their part. So, we all hope that we're just doing enough that, ground travel and travel in general will resume sooner than later. So we're going in the right direction. We're hearing a little bit of rumbles, not just the thunder that you're hearing there, that we could progress into our step 3 sooner than later, which allows to have more fans, allows us to be more businesses, more opportunities for people to just kind of resume whatever our new normal will be.
I know when we looked at the schedule, of course, the communication of us as far as the NASCAR Truck Series coming up to Mosport was one of our favorite trips of every year. Definitely bummed that I know Kyle and I looked forward to it every year at least, that we will not be able to get up there, as well as you guys being able to come down to Loudon, one of my favorite trips as well each year. Looking even further ahead, I know that usually around midsummer, sooner, maybe fall, you start looking at the 2020 schedule or 2022, under the assumption that, hey, maybe things are a little bit more regular. Have you guys started planning for that even?
Yeah, we weren't expecting this year to be what it was, but we are looking into 22 and on a more positive, traditional 219, where we're all back to normal and we can, include the Western Swing and the most exciting opportunity that we'll have on dirt at Oswego Speedway. So it will be well worth the wait. It's unfortunately, but we want to make sure that those events go off the way they deserve to go off. And being first time on dirt, we want to get that opportunity where, maybe some of the US people can join us, and with the restrictions, they're just not allowed. So we don't want to have that bad taste. We want it to go out with a bang like it should be, and be really excited to be going on the dirt.
Absolutely. And can't wait to get back up there, hopefully next year to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Also love going over to the Sunset Speedway when we're up there as well. So many great teams in this series, many of which have been a part since NASCAR took the series over many years ago, and some well before that with CASCAR. How much are you in communication with the teams about, first, how last year went, and 2, putting together this 11 race schedule for the 2021 season? And you mentioned practice and qualifying and just, everything that the series is going to involve this year.
Yeah, so it has been challenging with not being able to have our owners meeting that traditionally started in January. So we've done some Zoom calls. We did some one-on-one calls with teams. We've kept them in the loop. We've kind of thrown some ideas out to them, kind of got some of their feedback before we made our final decision. So the support from everyone that was involved to get back to the track was really good for all of our teams, all of our competitors, our partners. We just all want, like I said, some sort of normality and just go back to racing where the weather last year was probably the best season we've had in a long time. So hopefully this year, because we're going back with more races in more different cities, seven different tracks this time, that the weather's going to cooperate with us and not have to deal with the rain. So the rain can come now. I know it might hurt tracks this weekend, but certainly won't hurt my feelings when we have a dry August and September.
Sometimes Mother Nature just has a mind of her own, as much as we beg and plead her to let us go racing sometimes. But one of the things I always love to see is the storylines that come from the NASCAR Pinty series. Of course, I always feel like you guys get great guest folks that come over and race with you guys, and some of the storylines that comes out of the teams, including, Raphael Lessard, who looks like he's going to be making some starts for you guys as well. Who are some of the teams, the drivers that are going to be part of your series that you'll have circled that we should look forward to watching?
Well, it's always new, and we're still waiting for a lot to come in. We've had some new drivers have interest, so they're starting to bring all their memberships in for sure. But yeah, we're happy to see that Raphael will be back. Unfortunately, he couldn't finish his season down south with the trucks, but we're happy to have him. He's a great kid, a great ambassador to the sport. Jason White has done some truck racing and ARCA racing. We have our veterans in DJ Kennington. We have some Western drivers that'll come out. We've heard Chantel, now that she's just finished recently having a baby. He's almost a year old. She's going to come and join us for a couple. Brent Taylor, he's with Team 3 Red. Sorry to hear Jason's retirement this year, but they've got a strong house there with Dexter Stacy from Quebec. So we've got, our regulars with Alex Tagliani, who's hunting for that first championship in any series right now. He's always been sort of the bridesmaid, but never the bride. So we've got a lot of talent and a strong field. And we have our returning champion, Andrew Ranger, coming back. LP's there. And we're going to the great part of the 7 different tracks, 7 different challenges for these guys to run for that full championship.
And a couple of doubleheader weekends there along the way, 4 of them over the course of this summer. Any other competition changes potentially in the works, either for this year or something maybe that you're looking at when we get to the quote unquote new normal for 2022?
No, I think the only change that we made different from doing the Challenge Cup last year is bringing back the practice, the qualifying, and giving those teams the opportunity to just, put their talent and put their what they prep for all year onto the track to get that starting position instead of our draw that we did, which was very different. So we're not going to put too much at them, but they're just happy to get back to a little bit, like I said, a little bit of normal where they get to show and display their talent. And with fans coming back, that's the most exciting part for us, is there'll actually be butts in the seats, I should say, going through all the way through our season. So I don't think we're going to have any problems, and we're anticipating for a good year.
Awesome. Well, Cherie, again, thank you so much for taking some time. I know, like you said, a little storm passing through your way, so hopefully that passes on and stays clean and dry as we go racing on August 1st for the first Pinty's race. We're looking forward to it.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on today, and wishing you guys a great 4th of July weekend.
Thank you so much. Again, guys, Cherie Putnam, the series director of the NASCAR Pinty series. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we've got your Whelen Engineering Modified Driver Spotlight.
Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights. Whelen also produces white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on-site to meet the toughest industry certifications. Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, trusted to perform since 1952.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
Sure, but I'm on my lawnmower? Wait, am I getting a ticket?
No, I've just never seen anyone top 9 miles an hour on one of those bad boys. And mow their entire lawn in 30 seconds? What got into you?
Well, it did fuel up at Sunoco this morning.
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Get back to NASCAR roots by driving headfirst into the new home of grassroots racing. Flow Racing keeps the original NASCAR tradition of dirt track racing roaring with more than 1,300 live and on-demand oval events from across the U.S. Learn how the next generation of NASCAR drivers is prospected in sprint car racing. Subscribe today by going to flowracing.com/GoMRN. That's FLOracing.com/GoMRN.
Time now for this week's Whelen Engineering Modified Driver Spotlight, and we're going to talk to a driver that had a fairly eventful weekend down south at the Bowman Gray Stadium, which is his home track, a former track champion at the stadium. Danny Bone joins us now, and as we record this on the eve of his 33rd birthday. First off, thanks for joining us, and do you have any big birthday plans here this week?
Oh, thank you for having me on the show. Well, I was kind of looking forward to a weekend off this weekend with Bowman and the Truck Series, but there's been a video surfacing around lately that I flew over the fence at Bowman Gray Saturday night. So I think all of my plans for the last week or next week have changed to repair the race car. But fortunately, like, no one got hurt, and I don't think it's too bad, but I'll most likely be spending my birthday working on the car tomorrow night.
I was going to mention it later in the interview, but since you brought it up, we'll talk about it now. It doesn't happen often, although it has happened. I remember seeing it happen on opening night a couple of years ago, where a car does go over the fence and lands in that kind of dead space between the guardrail and where the grandstand starts. What's that like for you? What goes through your mind when it's happening? You mentioned wrong place, wrong time, and you just pretty much got launched over the backstretch guardrail.
Yeah, a helpless feeling, I guess you could say. You know, the car that I hit started to spin toward the infield. I saw that, and then at the last second, he had the wheels cut to the right, and it grabbed, and he came back across the track. And, you know, I got on the brakes, but I think we were 7th or 8th there, and you're mid-pack, and I would have hit him, but I got hit from behind too. And then with the open wheels, it kind of just climbs the fence, and I said, you're helpless at that point. Fortunately, we didn't completely go over. You know, I've been in that situation before at Daytona in 2013. I climbed the fence when me and Ryan Priest got together there, and it doesn't happen often, but with the tires sticking out with no fenders, you know, if you hit the wall at the right angle, they will go over.
Wild night, wild run, no doubt. Hopefully you can get the car fixed up and ready to go and continue your run for what will be hopefully your second championship at that racetrack, and more on that in a little bit as well. But let's go back to the beginning. You're from New Jersey, Fairhold, New Jersey. What got you involved in motorsports? And at one point, did you say, I want to be a driver?
Well, so my grandfather and my dad raced, you know, as I was a child, and basically I was in diapers at the racetrack, sitting in the grandstands, and it's kind of one of those things that it's all I know. You know, my dad was always working on his cars in the evening, and we'd get to go hang out with him in the shop and, you know, give them a hand. And every Saturday night we were at a racetrack. And then, you know, I come from just an average family. I didn't think we'd have the funding for me to be able to race. But fortunately, we were able to put a deal together to put me in a bandolero at Wall Stadium. I think it was in 2003 is when I started. And we had immediate success. And, you know, then you kind of get that, you know, that bug to just keep going. And we acquired the car that my dad used to drive, which I still rate, the one that I just climbed the fence with. That car was built in 1991. We got that car and put a crate engine in it and started racing at Wall in the modified affordable division. And then slowly, you know, picked up a few rides in a modified. I won a modified race there. And then, you know, it was something that it's all I knew, and it's something that I always wanted to do. But New Jersey is really not the place to make a racing career. So my dad had an opportunity to come work for Ray Evernham, and I really didn't have anything going on up there. I was 18 years old and decided to move down here without a job and just kind of see what happens. And fortunately, I was hired by Ray Evernham and still employed by him now. I'm actually on my lunch break doing this interview. So been fortunate to meet a lot of great people and brought the old car to Bowman Gray. And well, I first started racing dirt modifieds at East Lincoln Speedway, the track that Ray Evernham owned. back in 2009 and won the track championship there in a dirt modified, and started venturing out racing other racetracks. And it was one of them things that we were successful around this area, but if I wanted to race against more competition, I'd have to start traveling. It just wasn't, travel out west, and it wasn't something that I really cared to do. So I went up and sat in the grandstands a few times at Bowman Gray Stadium and had the old car down here. And I'm like, man, look at all these people. It'd be awesome just to race here. Just to say I raced here would be cool. So we, over the winter in 2010, got an engine in it and got it kind of ready to go. And went there opening night, didn't run well at all. And then the second night we were there, they had them twin 25s. We finished 8th in the first one. They inverted the field and won my first race there, my second night. So since then, it's kind of been, I guess, like a home to me. There's a lot of fans there, a lot of great people in and out of there. Just the history of the place is unbelievable. If you look into the people that's won championships there, it's, I think the most historic track that's still racing, weekly. So, like I said, just meeting a lot of great people. Had the opportunity to drive for Frank Fleming, Putnam Swisher. I ended up in 2014 driving full time for him over there in the 53 car, and was able to win the championship there for him. And it's just been one of those places that you kind of feel like it's home, and in the midst of that, we ran the Southern Modified Tour, won Rookie of the Year, most popular driver, finished second in points in 2012. And then, that the Southern Tour went away, and, I love the modifieds because that's what my whole family grew up racing, and now they have the Smart Tour down here. So maybe we can venture out to do some of those at some point this year.
You mentioned Bowman Gray, that 2014 championship. Since 2007, only 2 other guys have won titles there, in Burt Myers and Tim Brown. So what did it mean to you to kind of break those streaks up and just win at, like you mentioned, one of the most historic automobile racing facilities in this country?
So it's definitely an honor. I think it's different for, I didn't grow up there. So, like, I understand the history. It's important to me, the history, but, for somebody like Putnam Swisher, who spent his whole life racing at Bowman Gray Stadium and, every Saturday night driving or fielding the car, honestly, it was more of an honor to be able to win the championship for him than myself. Not taking anything away. I was extremely proud and grateful to be able to do it. It's one of my biggest career highlights, but, just to see the excitement in him and his guys after all the years that he raced there, to be able to finally give him that championship was pretty special for me.
Mentioned earlier, you work for right now anyway, one of the busiest guys in motorsports, starting up the SRX deal just a couple of weeks ago up here in Connecticut at the Stafford Motor Speedway. They've been playing on dirt the last couple of weeks. You mentioned you're on lunch break. So what's the full-time gig down there with Ray Evernham?
So I've been very fortunate, this year for him to be, have a flexible schedule with the racing stuff, and he's been understanding of that. So it's been a huge weight off my shoulders to be able to, still work and pursue my racing career. I don't make a living racing, so, I still do have a full-time job, and Ray's been extremely acceptable of me doing that. And, it gets tough because there's times that I have to take off work, and I try to do as much as I can outside of work time. But no, it's been great. I've made a lot of contacts through him. He's been supportive of it. So right now we do 410s. We work Monday through Friday, 10 hours, and which is good for me because a lot of the truck races that we travel to are on Fridays. So it's kind of opened my schedule up a little bit to be able to do that.
You mentioned the Truck Series, running for On Point Motorsports in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series over the last, I believe, 2 or 3 seasons. You've done part-time schedules with that team. How did that deal come together for you, and what's left on your schedule this year as we get kind of into the meat of their schedule? A lot of different events coming up for the trucks.
Yeah, so I'm back to Bowman Gray and meeting people. I race there fairly regularly for since I moved down here or started there in 2011, and conversation got brought up about driving a modified for On Point Motorsports. So drove out there, met the crew chief, Stephen Lane, and, we're just sitting there talking, and, he offered to put the modified together and let me run over there at Bowman Gray sometimes. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there in the shop, I'm looking at some Xfinity cars, I'm looking at a truck. I'm like, I'll drive the modified, but I'd kind of like to get in one of those things. So we were fortunate to be able to put a deal together, and Scott Borchetta and Brantley Gilbert came on board to sponsor me in my first truck race in 2019 at Martinsville. And, just for a short tracker who always dreamed to be there, but really didn't have the means to be there type deal, that was really important to me, just to be able to say, hey, like I made it there. I did it once. You know what I mean? I made a start in the top 3 series, and if it was one race, that would have been okay with me. But went there and had a really successful first race. We finished 8th and first time in the truck. And that's turned into, I ended up finishing the season that year. We ran Phoenix and Homestead. I ran 10 races last year. And then the plan going forward from this point on is I'm going to finish out the whole season with On Point. So we go to Knoxville next in a week and a half, is the dirt track. So 9 more truck races there. And just like I said, extremely fortunate for the opportunities that I've had. And my primary sponsor, North American Motor Car, they've been a huge help, and I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without them. So extremely fortunate to have the relationship that I have with them. And my dreams are still to make it, still to keep climbing the ladder. And Ryan Preece has done a great job at being able to do that. I don't have the finishes and the results that I've liked to have all the time, but you still have to learn, and you still have to learn the tracks and log laps. And that's what we're doing. We'll come away with some good finishes this year. We've had some good runs. I don't know what I've done, but I have pretty awful luck lately. We were running top 10 at Darlington, spun out with like 5 to go. And then, even just this weekend, broke a drive shaft on pit road at Pocono, flew down to Bowman Gray, and flew over the fence. So just got to keep digging, and hopefully things will turn around.
Yeah, one step at a time, and then hoping to get Lady Luck on your side, no doubt. Danny, I want to thank you for joining us here on the show, and we'll let you get back to work. I know we're kind of taking up your lunch break here down in Evernham shop, and we'll look forward to seeing you at Knoxville Raceway here in just about a week and a half time.
Yeah, no, anytime. Thank you for having me on the show. And I always forget to thank my dad. My dad has been a huge influence and support system. My family. My dad's he's retired now, so he's working on my car right now as we speak, trying to get ready for Bowman Gray in 2 weeks. So he's been, he gave up his racing career, kind of stepped out of the car when we started racing, and he's missed a few races, but it hasn't been many. So definitely need to thank him for all his support, and my family, and like I said, all my sponsors, and my boss, Ray Evernham, and North American Motor Car, and everybody that supports it. And hopefully we can keep climbing the ladder.
And keep it on the right side of the fence going forward. For Danny Bone, the 2014 Bowman Gray Stadium champion, and now a regular in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series for On Point Motorsports. He's this week's Whelen Engineering Modified Driver Spotlight.
Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights. Whelen also produces white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on-site to meet the toughest industry certifications. Whelen Engineering, a global leader in the emergency warning industry, trusted to perform since 1952.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. Go to HerculesTires.com. There you can find the nearest authorized Hercules retail location to you. Plus, you can use the tire tracker to find out which Hercules tire fits your vehicle the best. That's HerculesTires.com. Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Over the past weekend, the Pocono Raceway was a busy place, of course, hosting all of the National Series as well as the ARCA Menard Series for the Anywhere is Possible 200. And of course, came down to the battle of Corey Heim and Ty Gibbs. Corey Heim being the victor over that of Ty Gibbs, Drew Dollar, Nick Sanchez, and Thad Moffitt. They've got a couple weeks off, but they'll be back in action July 10th at Elko. Only 4 points right now. Kyle is separating our two leaders of Corey Heim and Ty Gibbs. It seems that gap continues to close, and it always seems that those two that are coming out on top at the moment.
And with as much as Ty Gibbs has won this year, one would think he would, one, be the point leader, and two, it would be a pretty big lead. But because of that crash at Talladega, largest field of the year, he lost a bunch of points. Corey Heim won that event. Corey likes these big tracks. One at the 2.5 mile Daytona International Speedway, one at the 2.66 mile Talladega Super Speedway, now at the Pocono Raceway in Pennsylvania over Ty Gibbs. Sam Mayer ran well early, was running in the top 5 until he hit a drive shaft going into turn number 1. Never a good thing. And Chandler Smith led 22 laps before he came together with Ty Gibbs on a late race restart where they fanned out and they drove each other down to the infield pit wall, practically almost to the campground. And then there was some damage on Chandler's car. Had a great save, but had to come in on pit road and change the tires. So great race, great way to open the weekend. And it was also fun to see a full infield. I believe there were like 2,000 campers and tents in the infield and another couple thousand just outside the wall, turn 2 all the way down through turn 3 and onto the front stretch. So a much different atmosphere than what we had there a year ago, where I stood on the billboard in turn 2 and looked to empty grass. So it was nice to see.
I was going to say, you had a great view of it up there as one of the turn announcers, and I saw all of the pictures of all of the campers and the fans that were in Pocono. It was great to see. But another place that also gets a lot of fans, and we talked to Danny Bone about it in that modified spotlight, was Bowman Gray over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they've packed the place every time they've opened the gates this year, and that's, I believe, just 3 weeks now. Burt Myers, John Holloman splitting the feature wins, and of course, we talked about Danny's incident earlier in the show with Danny. He messaged me on Sunday morning. He's like, I got something fun to talk about. During the interview, I'm like, I had not seen results yet. And then he sent me the video, and it's not too often you see a car go over the wall and out of the park at Bowman Gray because there's usually not a whole lot of room. But we've talked before, if there's a spot in a facility where you can land a race car,
a race car is going to find it.
A race car is going to find it. And Danny Bone put his car between the outside guardrail and the stands in what little space there is. He found it on Saturday night. Glad he's okay. Glad the car's okay. Bowman Gray is off this weekend to celebrate the 4th of July. They'll be back in a week and a half time.
Well, in this upcoming weekend, speaking of 4th of July, we've talked a lot about it over the past couple of weeks. The ARCA Menards West Series has had a pretty long break. They're back in action at the Irwindale Speedway with a couple of new names joining that lineup. We talked to Amber Slagle. She will be making her ARCA West debut, as well as Amber Balkin, who's been part of the Bill McAnally Drivers Academy. She's making her ARCA West debut as well. And then also we talked about the Euro Series as well. They're back in action at Brands Hatch this weekend. And you can watch all of this on NBC Track Pass. Going to be a busy weekend of racing, Kyle.
Yeah, can't wait to watch Irwindale. It looks like a fairly healthy entry list, and I think we talked about it last week. This is the first time we see the West Series as a standalone event. Their first 2 events this year have been with the NASCAR stars on their race weekends, and the first time they kind of break away from places like Phoenix and Sonoma at the Irwindale Speedway. Todd Souza, the current championship leader, heading into this weekend's race.
We wanted to thank again Cherie Putnam for joining us, as well as Danny Bone here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. We'll have more racing recaps and action for you next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. I'm Hannah Newhouse. For Kyle, Rickey, and producers Craig Moore and Ryan Horn, we will see you guys next week.